Welcome to the Wake Up Call in Children's Ministry podcast with your host, children's ministry influencer and author, Esther Moreno. Helping you to uncover those eye-opening aha moments that can transform your leadership journey. Reach your full potential through inspiring stories, expert insights, and actionable steps. It's time for your Wake Up Call.
Hey, you guys, welcome back to the next episode of the Wake Up Call in Children's Ministry podcast. You guys, today it is all about inspiring your volunteers. How are you inspiring? How are you motivating your volunteers to come and not just to show up, but to show up and serve with the spirit of excellence? And I cannot think of a better person to have to pour wisdom into us today. Andrae, I think I should call you the Andrae Jones, is with us today to shower so much wisdom on us. Andrae, for our listeners who may not know who you are, let us know a little bit about you and what you're doing in the ministry right now.
I think first and foremost, I will cash app you for that intro. I'm going to take the intro from the podcast and then just use it anytime. And I will put it as my ringtone. And I'm going to actually let other people use it as a ringtone, so that way they know when I'm calling. But no, man, I am Andrae Jones. Grateful to hang out with you, Esther, and with your podcast crew. I'm out here in Dallas, Texas, but I'm north of that in the Little Elm area at a wonderful church called One Community Church. We are 6 campuses now. I serve as our kids and a family pastor, and so about 80% of my time is pouring into our kids ministry staff, leaders, volunteers, and parents. Another 20 is really just kind of coordinated with our students and our young adult ministry, making sure that we have that cohesive team. I've got a college student now, 18-year-old, and a sophomore young lady, and top 5 cutest dogs in all of Instagram, the one and only Lyric. And so that's a little bit about me and my crew.
I love it. I love it. Andrae, today we are talking about how to empower excellence with our volunteer teams. Tell us a little bit about some of the key strategies that you use to inspire your volunteers to serve with the spirit of excellence.
Yeah, you know what? I'd love to say that we've always done it, and so I think sometimes people hear podcasts and like, okay, that sounds great, and I'm going to pivot a little bit, and I'm going to tell you about what it doesn't look like and what it did look like. And so there is a season. Let me tell you what it first looks like. What it first looks like is you then being inspired, you having the inspiration that you would then want for other people. You've heard the term like you can't pour from an empty cup, so you've got to be filled. And so where does filling and inspiration come? It comes from podcasts, just like this one. It comes from books. It comes from other leaders. It comes from spending time in God's word and just dwelling with Him. And if you're not doing those things, it's hard to be inspired. Because ministry, I don't know about your ministry and other people's ministry who's list, like ministry is not easy all the time. Yeah. But when you have those inspirations, you have those great people around you, it then helps you to stay inspired. And guess what? Then that inspiration gets a chance to be poured into your volunteers. But I think it also says, how do you see your volunteers, right? So if you see your volunteers as slots on PCO or slots in Excel rather than people that you get a chance to pour into, you don't want to inspire people that have no place. But you'll inspire people who have a place in your ministry. And so that's what inspiration doesn't look like. Well, there's a season of mine where I didn't pour into nobody at all. And here's what I was doing. I was coming in, checking the box of ministry every weekend. I was like, all right, we're here. We did it. Okay. And I would just leave. And the problem with that is everybody saw me. They saw that, and that's what they then mimicked. And then you have hot days and you have cold days. And what's the problem is you create this lukewarm ministry. So you just can't have a hot day and be like, here we go. Because guess what? people have already set that lukewarmness, and it's going to take more than just one day, which is why we have to constantly stay inspired. So when we're inspired, other people are inspired.
I love it. I love it. Andre, I always say this. I always say a growing children's ministry needs a growing children's ministry leader. And I think that
Yeah.
you are so spot on with that. If we are going to be motivated, if we are going to be inspired, then we need to make sure that we're intentional and that we're doing what we can to make sure that we're inspired, that we're growing so that we can pour out into our co-laborers, those who are around us, who are
Mm-hmm.
co-laboring in the ministry. I think it's so important. Let me ask you this, Andre, because I know you deal a lot. We know that volunteers can come. I kind of My analogy is a mixed bag of nuts. Sometimes you got so many different types of volunteers, different shapes, sizes, talents, and
Yeah.
abilities. Let me ask you this. How do you identify and cultivate the strengths and talents of
Mm-hmm.
those who come to serve in the children's ministry? And especially coming from your size of your church. Some people might say, oh, well, it's just impossible. There's just no time. It's so much going on. We're always doing, and really don't have time
Yeah.
to do that, to take out the time. What do you say about that? How do you do that? Is that possible to do that? And if so, how are you doing that?
Oh, you said my pet peeve word right there. We don't have time. I've
Mm,
probably heard it in multiple podcasts and read it in multiple books. You make time for what's important. And
that's
so
good.
when you do, you're saying that the task is more important than the person. And so
Mm,
a little background on us is out of our 6 campuses, our central campus is the only one that is really staffed. And so that means
mm,
that the other 5, one of them has one full-time kids person, and the other ones are completely volunteer run. And so, can it be done? Absolutely. Is there intentionality and a strategy to it? Absolutely. And I think it's one, having clarity on what in the world do you want somebody to do. Like, do you want me to be in the classroom? So make it crystal clear, because people can't read your mind, right?
yeah.
I think the second thing is, we got the saying of win the heart before you win the hand. And so
Mm,
oftentimes we will bypass people's hearts just to have a hand and a body in the classroom. And they're like, you don't know nothing about me. You don't care nothing about me. And you'd argue that, well, I talked to you when I was here. When you look at social media and different things, Facebook reminds you of your birthday, it reminds you of different notifications, and lets you know who you had friends with. So then you got technology that's being more personable than actual people. And so if you get intentionality with somebody,
mm,
utilize that, right? So you've got strategies like that. A couple other things we're going to do is we're doing our onboarding and our orientations. It's time with people. It's getting to know them.
mm,
It's walking alongside them, hearing their story. Because at the end of the day, we don't want what's from you. We want to know what's best for you. And so when you say what's for
mm,
me, somebody says, I love the opportunity to serve with kids. Let's do that. I love administrative. Let's do that. I love worship. Let's do that. Rather than, I hear what you love, but my 2-year-old class is on fire. I need you right there. And so it's
mm,
taking that time to be with people, to empower them, but then also to meet with them. And if you hate meetings, it's
mm,
going to be hard to do it. And if you hate organization,
mm,
it's going to be hard to do it. And so much of it says, let me stop blaming that volunteer and let me get my stuff together. Which then says, let me get some great people around me to then pull that off as well.
mm. I love that. Andre, let me ask you about training. I see you at the conferences. I see you leading workshops and pouring wisdom into leaders across the country. When it comes to your children's ministry, what
Mm-hmm.
does training and equipping really play? And what does that look like for your volunteer team?
Yeah, and I'll be honest and transparent. It has not been good lately. It is not. And so we've coined this term, simply excellent, and that's what our ministry mantra is right now. It's like, hey, we're going to ensure that
Mm,
everything is simply excellent. And what that simply means is that can a volunteer do it completely and with excellence? And if everything that we do can't be done by volunteers, we will tweak it and tweak it and tweak it until it gets there. And so Our orientations, we run those weekly, and then those orientations we're welcoming, we're connecting, we're informing, and we're giving you a clear next step so that you know where you're going. Then the shift we're making is we're going to do 2 shadows. So you're going to shadow once where you walk down, I see A, B, C, D. Then next time you come back, I'm going to E, F, G, whatever may be there. So I got shadow 1, I got shadow 2. And then we'll do monthly gatherings with their team. So if you're in nursery, you're going to have a monthly gathering. Preschool, monthly gathering. Elementary, monthly gathering. Some of those will be Zoom, quarterly, they'll be in person. And every quarter, we bring everybody together and we do a volunteer celebration. And so the goal is from interest all the way to regular serving. There's consistent training resources that you receive. And we do huddles every weekend. So in the huddle, we're going to highlight something real quick, boom, get you motivated so that you're ready to rock. And so it's not like I signed up, you threw me to the wolves. There's continuous training for every volunteer that happens weekly, daily, weekly, monthly, all the good stuff.
What does a Andrae Jones huddle look like? Because I feel like I would want to be in that huddle.
It depends on the day.
Because you do these quarterly celebration, right? You said quarterly, you guys get together and you guys have these celebrations. And I'm sure a part of those celebrations is appreciation. Let me shift into that because I want to ask you, how do you create a culture of appreciation when it's so much going on and people are like boom, 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 they're over here, and then they're over here. How do you really create that kind of environment of recognition to really help motivate and retain those volunteers? Because that's important too. We talk about children's ministry and then reaching families for Christ. But the truth is recruiting and actually retaining those volunteers is just as important. So how do you kind of create that culture of appreciation that really makes your volunteers want to be there and want to show up?
Yeah, it's get the small wins, right? And so I think literally it's on my wall right above here. I talk with our preschool team. We talk about, hey, how do you get some small ones? And so number one, if you want to appreciate them, make their environment great. And so no volunteer wants to walk into a crazy environment, right? So how can you make it when they walk in, it is crystal clear, I got this, boom, we're ready to rock. Two is know their names. Hey, what's up, fam? Good to see you. Hey, my boy, my girl. Like, no, know somebody's name because there's something special when you call somebody's name and it's not.
Yeah.
When you call a name and it's not because they're in trouble, but you call a name because you truly know them. And so it's doing that. I think another aspect of it is we just started this and they trumped me because I was like, nah, we're not doing this. And they're like, they put snacks in the room. Just little snacks that say, hey, we appreciate you, because you'll be surprised how far a bottle of water and some chips go. Because, oh, you thought about me. We make phone calls. And so we it's not just a text, how you doing? We actually call you, how's it going? How can we be praying for you? You killed it last week. And so from the classroom to the calls, and then we just have regular meetups. Like I would just say, hey, what you doing today? Nothing, cool. Come to my house, we're having a barbecue. And so it takes ministry inside and outside the church. Our preschool coordinator, I talked to her one night and she had all her girls from kindergarten, and they were doing painting. It was no sipping, it was just painting. So just to clarify that, it was just a painting. And so all of her kindergarten girls but she has one of the strongest classrooms. Why? Because she's intentional with those ladies. She spends time with them inside and outside the church. And so they'll go to bat for her because she's put that time into them.
I love it. Andrae, let me ask, how do you balance this need for excellence, right? Because this is like the new mantra, right? Simply excellence. How do you balance that need for excellence with the potential of volunteer burnout? And what strategies do you use in particular to help prevent that amongst your team?
You know, once again, I won't say that we've done it great, but I think when we've done it well is in the places where I don't want anybody to ever feel bad for living their life. And so what I mean by that is if you got a volunteer who has to go support, here's the deal. My daughter now does club volleyball, and my son was doing club basketball and stuff. And so what it did is it put me in the shoes of some of my other families because they weren't playing sports at one time. So yeah, every Sunday is free for me. But now you volunteers who have kids who have them, like, they have to make a choice every week. And what I didn't want from them is to feel like, oh, well, I gotta go support my kids and I can't serve and I feel bad. You shouldn't feel bad about that. And so what I want for them is to freely serve, but also to freely live their life. But what we've done a little bit is we've raised the bar in regards to serving. So yes, there is a commitment to it, just like you would commit to anything else, but we honor that and we don't bully you into it. So there's a careful tension there that says, hey, I need you to be here. I'm gonna hold you accountable, but I'm not gonna disown you if something happens. If somebody's serving faithfully, regularly, I'm like, hey, you just need to take this weekend off. But it's gonna be okay. And so when you do Simply Excellent, anybody can do anything, and it's not just built upon you. And if something is built upon you, then we have a problem. So in doing that, it frees people up from the burden of, I have to do it. If somebody else can't do it, we have a problem. Because I want you to take a weekend off. I want you to go on vacation. I want you to support your kid. But I want to make sure that when you're not here, it's done just as well. And so I think what that says to the person is, I value your life, but I also value making this thing great, and let's partner together. And we haven't done that in the past. We just said, you weren't here. Why? Woo! And then people get mad and they're like, I'm done.
Yeah. I love it, Andre. I love that. If something is all built upon you, just solely upon you, then we have a problem. Andre, leave us with some last words of inspiration to the listeners about just inspiring and motivating just the spirit of excellence amongst your children's ministry team.
That's leave us with some inspiration, some words. What would I if I'm listening to this podcast, what do I want to hear? I want to hear that, oh, I got it. I just heard this. Is that at wherever you're at in the journey is not the end of it. And so they said that know that you're in the middle. And so if you're trying to get better, it's not the end. There's still time to progress, to change, to grow, and to do all these things. Take some of the pressure off yourself. Give yourself some grace and get some great people around you. And so there's this idea of this gap in the game. And so the gap in the game says, I've got these goals. And ministry leaders, you probably got goals and you're trying to achieve. And maybe it's, I just want to get 20 new volunteers. And you're only at 5. Somebody will look at that 15 gap and be like, we're no good and we didn't make it. And that's not the case. You had 5 more than you had before. So let's go get 6 and let's go get 7. Let's celebrate the gain that has been made. Oftentimes we don't see that gain. We only see the gap. And so wherever your ministry is, celebrate the gain, push for that goal and the gap, but don't beat yourself up over it. You're doing well. You're doing a great job, and just take it one day at a time. That's what I would want to hear. You're awesome. On your way, and that's okay.
Awesome, Andre. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today, and just for pouring so much wisdom on leaders across the country. You're amazing. Until I harass you next time, right?
Hey, let's get it. I'm coming your way somewhere. I'm trying to figure out how to get out there. We're gonna hang out soon. Somewhere.
We're gonna hang out soon. Hey, you guys, thanks for listening to the Wake Up Call in Children's Ministry podcast. We'll see you next time.